Welcome back to the Pit Stop Ranch. A few weeks ago we picked up Machy here, and this is gonna be the third video in covering this new acquisition. And though I've kind of hinted at and even pointed out a number of the flaws with this particular example, I thought today I might go ahead and do a more in-depth look at just how rotten this car is. We have been picking at it over the last couple weeks in the evenings, a little bit on the weekends, as you have seen, and exposed, I think, the worst of it and all of it. And we want to discuss, you know, hypothetical future plans with you. Okay, so I've shown this quarter before, and it's pretty ugly, it's pretty nasty, all the way up, all along. Now, we got this hole here, but even more interestingly, and we got, this is the worst part of both rockers right here. You can see it. However, this door is pretty bad, and someone attempted to, they just screwed in some galvanized roofing tin, you know, because I guess that can be a fix. You can just see how utterly just rotten all of this in here is. Another thing you notice, the door is shut with the gaps and everything. Yeah, we can stick a whole hand in there. Well, that's in part because this hinge isn't bolted to anything. Not sure if it's because it rusted out. This main structure here, which is a structural component, comes in and ties to the cowl here. I suspect part of this is specific to 71, but yeah, this is almost completely gone. Now, water comes in here and it's supposed to drain out here and come down. Now the nice thing is this looks like a factory piece of galvanized steel that they put down here for the bottom rocker, and I'm hoping that's the reason why this and the rest of the rockers are actually in pretty good shape. But both sides, yeah, that is super bad. Continuing on, this main structural wing here, splash guards, whatever. Here's where the hood hinge bolted to. Now completely, pretty much gone. I put a little bit of weight on it inside, and it bloop, came right out. So that's bad. Of course, this is just a bolt on cover, but it's super crusty. You know, in there and here is just full of crud and crap and corruption, and is pretty rotten. Here it is on the other side. You can see it's rotted through on both sides, front and back on that one, and even more on this one. So that's all chewed up. Now this main wing here had a series of different panels overlapping each other and then pinch welded together to create the structure. Moisture got between the two, got trapped between the two somehow. Probably because of an accumulation of dirt and stuff, and rotted out. So we are, this is all rotten. In fact, basically, from the top of this rail up is pretty much no bueno, it's no good. Now that over there rusted out because of the battery, sits right here, so of course it rotted out real bad. The core support is both rotten in a lot of places, but also tweaked and bent in all sorts of interesting, creative ways. So that's no good. See how it's compressed here on this one. So this bottom part is jammed in. So, and it is super thin. It is, this is all of this is super thin. Furthermore, I think instead of replacing sagging springs and suspension, someone just put these in. And over here, it's just as rotten and messed up. Again, you know, you got the drainage hole here. So that all, the upper cowl needs to be repaired and replaced. Again, actually the rockers are in surprisingly good shape. A little bit of cancer there. This fender, or this quarter, appears to be not so bad. Given all this work on it, I'm willing to bet if we knock this off, it'll be kind of gross. This is definitely a problem, bent and mangled. But let's take a look at this floor. Not a lot left, even less over there. So over there I haven't got to cleaning it yet, but I got this side over here cleaned up, and surprisingly not bad right here, right under the passenger seat. But right here, which is structural, it is toast. And I'm willing to bet it's exactly the same over there. As clearly a squirrel's mansion for some time in a moist part of the world. Dashboard is, you know, it is. It's about all we can say. And there's been a lot of really poor repairs that made the situation, as exacerbated and made the situation a lot worse with this car. All the headliner hoops are still in, that's good. Here are some of the miscellaneous parts and other stuff that came with the car, including an extra set of taillights. They're both fenders. The passenger side, which is in pretty good shape, the driver's side, which is hammered. So all these problems were obvious when we picked up the car. However, we had our rose-colored glasses firmly JB welded to our face, and chose not to necessarily acknowledge the extent of the problems that are here. Instead, we paid the nice man his money, loaded the car, and drove away. And it wasn't until we got home that we really kind of dug into it and chose to see just how incredibly rough this car is, that it became obvious. And in past videos I have alluded to and joked that this was a fairly sizable mistake. I don't feel that strongly about that position, to be clear. A way we like to look at super rough vehicles like this is not as a mistake or a problem or any issue along those lines. We choose to look at it as an opportunity. It is a real 1971 Mach 1 with the Cleveland, with the 4V heads and the high compression ratio closed chamber heads, and the 4-speed top loader and 9-inch rear. Very desirable combination. Furthermore, it was a relatively uncommon paint choice combination, the pewter, and it had a highly desirable upgraded interior. There are the Super Cobra Jets, the Boss 302s, a number of other more collectible Mustangs of this vintage and of this year. Though this car is somewhat collectible, much of what makes it collectible is either rotten or missing, or needs massively overhauled and rebuilt. So as a result, this car is more or less a blank canvas, something that we can apply our individual tastes and ideas to without ruining a classic, because there's not much left of it. Now, when I say this is an opportunity, there's a number of different ways to look at it as that opportunity. The financially smart way to address this whole situation is to go ahead and part it out, cut it up, and whatever is too rotten or not valuable enough to sell to someone else restoring a vehicle so that, you know, they can get theirs back on the road, and then scrap the remainder. For the moment, let's hypothetically assume we're not financially smart, which is a fairly safe bet. And we choose instead to get this thing back on the road. The nice thing about it is all the sheet metal is available. We can get a new rad support, we can get new wings for it, we can get all new everything for it. And the few little pieces that aren't necessarily available as reproduction, we got the skills and the tools to hammer out. If we got a reasonably good example, a new example that we can use to replace the rotten part. Included in that list of things that's still available is a super special upgraded interior. Now, if we go down the path of restoring it, of getting it back to as close to the factory new condition as we can, what we'll end up with is a sorta collectible 1971 Mach 1. And it will at best be just as good as it was new. Now, that like new is probably, it's a nice setup for just cruising around and occasionally doing a hard launch from a stoplight to stoplight. It's mostly when you do something like that, you're pretty much just looking to go to car shows. Now, of course, with this opportunity and looking at old race car photos of what this car actually looked like as a true race car, it brings to mind, or starts one thinking about, well, why not make it an actual race car? And though we have no intentions necessarily of doing a full-on race car with it, we got better chassis that we can use for racing. It would be, maybe this is the one we do the full pro touring treatment on. Make it a super leggero, lightweight track monster, you know, completely re-engineer this front suspension, replace all this rotten steel with tube steel and aluminum and carbon fiber. Do an independent rear end, Coyote motor, 6-speed manual. Make this thing just a real beast, you know. Try and get the weight distribution to, you know, as close to 50-50 as we can, and go tear up the autocross or local road courses or whatever, and cut through the canyons and just, you know, show everyone exactly what we can do. And of course, the problem with this idea, of course, is it's the longest, most expensive, most intricate engineering option, and therefore kind of at the extreme, all the way from just doing a, well, just parting it out, let alone doing a restoration. There, obviously, like all things in life, there's a wide variety of things between all of those extremes. And we kind of tend to lean towards resto-mods around here. Something that has a lot of the aesthetic look and feel of a classic vehicle with more of the chassis dynamics, drivability of a more modern contemporary vehicle. Where we're kind of at right now is what do we take from each camp in order to create the car that is kind of optimized. That isn't going to take 10 years to build at the rate we build stuff, and is going to be what we want, which is honestly something that's sporty but that we can drive on the street, and go from there. Like I said, we're years away from actually cutting metal on this. It's going to get stuffed in the back corner of the yard somewhere, and it's going to show up in the background for a while. We have a lot of things ahead of it. A racing program, a restoration project that's 3/4 the way through, a building to build, and hot rods to build. So it's gonna be a while before we get to this, and we might never get to it. However, we really enjoy daydreaming about this stuff, and I'm curious to find out what you guys think what we should do with this car. Do the smart thing, part it out and scrap it, or build it, and if you were to build it, what would you do with it? A straight restoration, pro mod, something in between. Thank you for watching the video. If you support what we do here at the Pit Stop Ranch, please hit the old like button, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe. Really all helps us out a lot. And until next time, have a resto-mod-tastic day.